Good. We had 3 against 1, but I anticipated.
Let's talk about that.
I saw on your show last night, they had 100% positive coverage on ABC, and I had 94% negative coverage.
93% negative.
I exaggerated.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. We're fresh off the debate, so in this video, we're going to look at the post-debate interviews from Donald J. Trump, RFK, J.D. Vance, and Senator Ted Cruz. Obviously not Kamala Harris, because after the debate, she was out of there as fast as possible. We're probably not going to hear from her again now till after the election. Donald Trump, though, debate finished, and he talked to a bunch of people. I was absolutely disgusted on how biased this thing was to watch on TV. And if you're not somebody who's really into politics, you were watching this, I hope that the American people could also see this, and I do hope that this backfires, because this was absolutely disgusting. But that's what you get when, you know, Kamala Harris, her one of her best friends, is the head of ABC. So that's what you get. So let's start with Donald J. Trump, his interview. I'll give you my thoughts through the video.
I had a good time. I think it was our best debate ever. I thought it was really good. We had 3 against 1, but I anticipated.
Let's talk about that. 3 against 1, and all of her radical positions they leave on the table.
Yeah. No, we had a lot of negative kind of stuff. Look, I saw on your show last night, they had 100% positive coverage on ABC, and I had 94% negative coverage.
93% negative.
I exaggerated.
You got an extra percent non-negative. As you were with her tonight, to think that we come out of this debate and we have no answer to her co-sponsoring the Green New Deal, $93 trillion,
yeah.
I say the end of capitalism, to come out of this, you know, government-run health care and no answer to eliminating private health insurance.
Well, we brought them all up. You know, every one of the things that we brought it all up. And I also ended with, why hasn't she done it before? Why didn't she fix, you know, she's there complaining. Why didn't she fix all these things that she's complaining?
Were you really willing to leave the stage and go home if she was going to go fix it in Washington?
No, you know what? I would have left. I would have said, go home and fix it. I'll leave with you, okay? But she doesn't, she's not going to fix it. So she's complaining about all the stuff that's wrong with the country, and they've been there for 3.5 years. And I put that, I wanted to save that for my last little summation. And I actually mentioned in there, too. I just thought it was a great debate. I think we showed the weakness. But the sad part is they're destroying our country. You know, when you get right down to it. Debate, good debate. I enjoyed it. But it's a very sad thing because our country is in decline. We are really being laughed at all over the world. And that's tough to take.
Do you think it's strange that somebody could support something as radical as sex change operations paid for by taxpayers for convicts and illegal immigrants, and for illegal immigrants, free housing, health care, education, and not get asked a question about it?
But I brought it up.
You did bring it up.
Of course, they weren't so happy when I brought it up, but I brought it up. I brought up the fact that they're doing sex change operations on illegal immigrants. And those are expensive operations, and they shouldn't be done for a lot of reasons.
There were a lot of things said that weren't true about you tonight, that you had supported a national abortion ban.
Yeah.
You've never said that.
I never said
that you support Project 25.
Correct.
You never read it? I don't even know what it is either.
I don't want to read it.
Okay, number 2. That she said in 2000, I took back my position on banning fracking.
Yep.
No, CNN fact-checked that and said no. The mandatory gun buyback at the end of the debate, she lied about that too.
That's right. That's right.
And
she wants to confiscate. I called her out on everything that you said. I think I got everything out. Now, with all of that being said, I was amazed because I really thought they'd be fair. I have to say, CNN a few weeks ago was sort of fair against Biden. Yeah. But this one was stacked. I figured it would be after watching 100% positive coverage of her. And she's done a terrible job as vice president. And look, she's the worst vice president we've ever had. She was the border czar, the worst border ever in the history of the world, not just in our country. And he's the worst president we've ever had.
So
they're destroying our country.
I'm very aware. And if we look at her tax plan, which is, okay, price gauging or gouging, and the largest tax increase not only in American history, but world history, her campaign is saying tonight, Washington Post is reporting, that she wants a second debate. What's your answer?
She lost. She wants it because she lost.
Do you have an answer?
Well, I don't know. I have to think about it. But if you won the debate, I sort of think maybe I shouldn't do it. Why should I do another debate? She immediately said, we want another debate. That's, you know what happens when you're a prize fighter and you lose? you immediately want a new fight.
You want a rematch.
You want a rematch. The guy that won is sort of happy and thinking about it.
Would you be inclined to say yes, or you
Maybe
don't know?
if it was on a fair network, I would do that. But
I think let Hannity moderate it.
yeah, no, I think
like
that
I
would be
did
fair.
Newsom and Ron DeSantis.
I think it would be fair. You would be fair, actually.
I would be
you
fair.
want to know the truth.
I'd let you both talk. I'd let you go at each other.
I thought they would be fair. They weren't, but I felt very comfortable.
Yeah.
We have the best policy. She has no policy.
You know, one thing that interested me, because I've known you for a long time, and one of the things that I was watching in you tonight is that you were all business. You know, a lot of times when you're at your rallies or we do a town hall.
Sean, they're destroying our country.
Is that what it was? Is it the seriousness of the moment?
There's nothing to smile about. You know, I'm a good smiler, but there's nothing to smile about. They're destroying. We have 21 million people that have been released into our country, and many of them are criminals and terrorists and people
Lincoln
from
Riley,
mental institutions.
Rachel Morin, Jocelyn Nungary.
All dead.
I list all these names
I know.
on the show of people murdered, people raped, people victims of violent crime, names a lot of people never heard of. You've called Lincoln Riley's family.
I did. I was with him. Who
else you've met other families? You met the families of
I met them all.
Afghanistan.
Nungary. I met.
You met Nungary's family.
Yeah, I met 5 or 6 of them. Not even talking about the 13 soldiers that were killed in Afghanistan, the families of the 13 soldiers, which Biden won't even talk to, and he's the one that caused their death. Just as if he had a pistol in his hand, he and her caused their death. Just as if literally they had a gun in their hand.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. When you're in a situation like that, what is going through your mind? What goes on behind the scenes? How do you prepare for your debates?
Well, I think I always say I've been preparing all my life for these debates. You know, you can't go in like she did. She goes into a room and she memorized lines, more or less. I thought I got one cute one. I'm talking when I said, I'm talking, when she started interrupting.
Well, she said that to Mike Pence.
I wanted to get
speaking.
even for that. You know, that was not very nice what she did. But no, I thought it was, we're getting great reviews.
It's interesting that one line that really stuck out, that did make me laugh out loud, is when you said you're going to send her a MAGA hat. There are a lot of positions now, all of a sudden, she's come over to your side. She's been against the border wall. She's been against...
There's only one problem.
Yeah.
If she ever won immediately from the day after that election, everything would go back to confiscate your guns and forget about oil and everything else. You know, they were cutting back on oil way back. They got rid of S.D.N.Y, the biggest oil site perhaps in the world, in Alaska. They did things that are so bad and so destructive, but energy prices started doubling up, and she immediately went back to the Trump plan. But I would have been now 4 times higher than they are right now, because that was 3.5 years ago.
Right.
When she cut everything out. She went to wind and went to all this other stuff that doesn't work from an economic standpoint and even a visual standpoint. I don't get the wind. You take these gorgeous plains and deserts and all this stuff, they put these windmills up, they go up like a 30-story building in some cases. They destroy everything, they cut out all, and the environmentalists say, aren't they wonderful? But it's the most expensive form of energy, and it's never going to do for our country.
So if we look at the issues on the economy, on immigration, on law and order, on energy, and America's role in the world, is there anything you can point to that you would say they have been successful on?
No, they have been unsuccessful at everything. And even the economy, I said, as part of the economy, you've let 21 million people, more than that, I think, with all the gotaways. That's killing our economy.
Terrorists, and we do have the murders and the rapes and the violent crimes.
Oh, and you haven't seen anything yet. Where do you see it in the months to come?
You know what scares me, and I've said this on the air, is by having open borders, unvetted illegal immigrants, that I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when that this country is going to be attacked.
If you look at Springfield, Ohio, look at what's happening there. You look at Aurora in Colorado, these beautiful little towns and little cities, small cities, they're being taken over by illegal migrants. I mean, they're people that poured in, and they have weapons like our military doesn't have. You know, they have AK-47s, they have weapons like our military doesn't have. And, you know, some sheriff in one of these towns where he's got 2 deputies and they're not into this. There's no way they can protect the people from this. But look at what's going on in Springfield today. Nobody's ever seen anything like it.
We really appreciate it. I know your people are calling for you to roll. What made you come to the spin room?
I just felt I wanted to. I was very happy with the result. It's a very unfair situation. They've weaponized our government politically, so I mean that's unfair. And I just felt we had a great night. And I'd come over here. I actually gave a little bit of a news conference. We were swarmed.
Oh, by the way, I could hear it. You were interrupting my show, by the way, just for the record.
I had to come over and do yours. I would hate like heck to leave here, and I didn't do
No, I would be mad. I would take that as a personal offense.
I would have been
in
big trouble.
All right, so no answer on their offer for a second debate.
Again, the reason you do a second debate is if you lose, and they lost. And we looked at one poll, it was 92-7.
Yeah.
We looked at another one, 86-3.
Wow.
I mean, we have all of these results coming in, but I'll think about it, It's very quick.
Mr. President, thank you for taking time. We really appreciate it.
Now, I will say I'm not as optimistic about the debate as I think most people are when it comes to what Trump did. I think he got bait into a lot of stuff. He looked off a little bit to me. Then again, he's fighting 3 people there, so that would probably do it. I wish it would have been on Fox. It was supposed to be on Fox. And I'll give the Democrats one thing. They said no, and they got their way, and then this happened. And I don't think Trump's team should have agreed to it, to be honest with you. But this is obviously hindsight being 2020. I don't think he did as good as people say. I hope I'm actually wrong here. I'm wrong a lot on this channel, as you guys know, so don't worry about it. I might be totally off. But these moderators, they did exactly what their bosses wanted them to do. Her close personal friend is one of the heads of ABC. She's responsible for Kamala and her husband meeting. So they did her bidding tonight, these moderators. What's her name? Dana Walden. It was 3-1, as Trump said. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Kamala supporter or a Trump supporter. This can't be happening. This made the CNN debate look like a fair debate. It's easy to get the good looks on a debate when both moderators are on your side. She got crushed in the first few minutes, and then they went right to abortion. And they stayed on abortion. And they started grilling Trump and giving her the easy questions and saying, oh, Donald Trump, why are you so bad? And then turning to Kamala Harris and saying, isn't Donald Trump bad? This was disgusting to watch. Now, when I say that I don't think it went so good for Donald Trump as everybody else does, I think he did the best he could with what he was given under these circumstances, but it was really like 3 fighters in a ring pummeling another opponent. It was unfair in every way, shape, or form. He did okay. He had his moments. I thought he started off good, and I thought he ended good, which is what matters. I guess how you end matters more than anything. But the same way the Democrats never agreed to do anything with moderators that they don't trust, I think Republicans should need to start doing the same thing. Republicans need to start having either moderators that they can trust, not necessarily to be biased towards them, but that they know are going to be fair and down the middle, which is what we want. What they did to Trump tonight with all those numerous fact checks of what he said, I don't remember one single fact check on all the lies that Kamala told up there. She got away with all of it. And I'm okay if it's Trump's job to fact check her. It should be Trump's job to fact check her. But at the same time, the moderators were fact checking Trump. It wasn't fair. They didn't employ the same tactics for Trump as they did for Kamala. When Trump said that his comment when he lost the 2020 election by a whisker he was being sarcastic, David Muir actually injected and said, well, I didn't hear any sarcasm in there. Like, David Muir, I don't curse on this channel too often, but who gives a fuck what you think? This is not your place, my friend. Who made you the chief political analyst? You're supposed to, at that point when you're a moderator, to be a moderator. You can keep that for your fluff piece on the news, for your opinion, for your show. Fair. That's what I do here. There's no place for that in the debates. Very inappropriate. Now, let's get to the clip of RFK talking with Sean Hannity.
All right, one issue that did get a lot of attention from ABC's far-left moderators was the weaponization of our Department of Justice. Donald Trump still made it a point of emphasis. Take a look.
Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
All right, joining us now, someone who knows firsthand about the weaponization of justice, live from the spin room, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Great to see you. How are you?
Good to see you, Sean.
You left your party, a party that that was near and dear to your father, to your uncle, I think it has no resemblance to the Democratic Party today. And this is the frustrating part about tonight, the radicalization, the views stated by Kamala. You know, they weren't asked by the moderators. To me, it was a failed opportunity. I think the American people were failed tonight.
Yeah, I was disappointed by the evident bias of the moderators who were fact-checking constantly, kind of trivialities by President Trump, but didn't, as far as I saw, they didn't fact-check Vice President Harris a single time. But you're right, Sean, the party that I grew up in doesn't exist anymore. The party of Robert Kennedy and John Kennedy was a party of peace. It was the party of resisting the corporate subversion of American democracy. It was the party of civil rights and constitutional rights, particularly censorship, very opposed to censorship and surveillance. It was the party of protecting the most vulnerable people in our society, including particularly children. Today, the Democratic Party is the party of war. It's the party of censorship. It's the party of surveillance. We saw Dick Cheney and John Bolton endorse, along with 255 neocons, endorse Vice President Harris this week. They came out of exile, where they were sent after the Patriot Act. They were sent after the war in Iraq, the biggest foreign policy debacle in American history. And they're not endorsing Vice President Harris because they've changed their minds. They're endorsing her because she represents their worldview. More censorship, more war, more surveillance, and less liberty and constitutional rights.
You learned a lot in the course of your campaign. They talk about democracy in peril, but everything, the entire force of the Democratic establishment, if you will, they just went in for the political, death of your campaign. They did not want you to get to. They didn't want you to get at first base.
That's the other
ballot.
That's the other thing, is that they've abandoned democracy. The Democratic Party is now about centralized control. It's about losing faith in the demos, the people, and about abolishing elections, abolishing our ability to hear different points of view, to hear dissent. In my case, of course, they got rid of the primaries. They literally abolished many of the primaries so that President Biden wouldn't have to debate me, wouldn't have to run against me.
Let me dip in. I guess Kamala's at one of her watch parties or something. I don't know what she's saying. Let's just dip in for a second.
And let me just say that I think we all know that tonight was a night that highlights something that you all have been working so hard on. We have folks here who have been knocking on doors. Well, but we have a lot of work to do, okay? And tonight, I think, highlighted for the American people what's at stake. I started the debate by talking about it, and it became apparent, I think, throughout that about an hour and a half, that...
Look, obviously, she's going to go out there and her team. The thing that I learned about her tonight is, being hidden away for days and days and days on end. You can learn your rehearsed lines. And it doesn't matter if you tell the truth, because she wasn't fact-checked. She told a lot of lies about Trump in 2025, lies about mandatory gun buybacks, which she did support, lying about fracking, lying about a national abortion ban that Donald Trump doesn't support. And, it's hard when you've got 3-on-1 like that. But that's what I expect. She's been in this campaign 50 days. We only have 56 days till Election Day, but early voting, for example, I've been pointing out tonight, starts right here 1 week from tonight. There's a lot of information about her stated views in her own words that people don't know about. What would you advise the Trump people to do to get that out?
Here was the most telling part of the debate to me, which she didn't get fact-checked on. The first question, are Americans better off than they were 4 years ago? There's no metric you can use to make that case. And she was allowed to then go and give this kind of biographical sketch of herself without ever asking that question, and they never demanded that she ask it. Today,
one good thing that I can say is that most people, this went on late, most people are probably not watching this. They'll catch the highlights on whatever YouTube channel they follow or on whatever social media platform they go on. Trump was triggered. In my opinion, he looked triggered up there, and I don't blame him. Like all these moderators were doing is say, hey, Mr. Trump, you said something very horrible and controversial, and let me remind you of what that was. Do you have any regrets of saying this stuff? Or thoughts on how horrible you were? Trump would answer something, and then they turn to Kamala Harris and say, how bad is Trump? How horrible is Trump really? Then she'd answer. This happened over and over again. I think the American people are going to see through this, and I hope that it backfires. I hope that they're going to see through this and have empathy for Trump if they're an independent. No fair-minded person could watch this whole thing and think any other thing than this is 3 against 1. You'd have to be a fool. If you watch it live, you'd have to be a fool to not see that. Now let's get to the interview, which I thought was great with Senator Ted Cruz. We'll finish off with J.D. Vance. Let's get it.
Campaign is now saying they want a second debate. What does that tell us? Joining us with more reaction to tonight's debate, Texas Senator Ted Cruz is with us. Senator, how do you interpret that and your overall thoughts on the debate tonight?
Well, listen, I'm skeptical that Kamala's team will have her do a second debate. I think they're going to back out of that. I think they're going to send her back to Joe Biden's basement. I think we probably will not see Kamala emerge again from the basement, sort of like the groundhog in her shadow. She's not going to come out again from the basement until election night, other than to go for rallies and read from teleprompters. And listen, I got to say tonight, what Kamala demonstrated is, number one, she cannot defend her disastrous record. Her record is an absolute train wreck. So instead, what she did, what we saw tonight in this, quote, debate, was her repeating memorized set pieces from her stump speech and from her convention speech. The very opening question, the most important question in any election, are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? She refused to answer that because she couldn't answer that, because nobody, unless you are a Mexican drug lord, nobody else is better off than they were 4 years ago. So she didn't answer that. Instead, she's like, I'm from a middle-class family. I want things better for you. And no aspect on inflation. She didn't address that she cast the tie-breaking vote on trillions of dollars of spending that caused inflation, hurting Americans across this country. On energy, she didn't address that she and Joe Biden have waged war on American energy over and over and over again, driving up the cost of gasoline and everything else for Americans. On the border, she didn't address her own personal responsibility, the invasion, the crime, the murders, the women sexually assaulted, the children brutalized. She didn't take responsibility for any of that. And then on foreign policy, I actually thought on foreign policy she was the weakest. It was absurd when she turned to Donald Trump and says, well, everyone knows you were weak and ineffective. Listen, if Donald Trump were still in the White House, the 2 wars that broke out under her leadership and Joe Biden's would not have happened. Russia would not have invaded Ukraine, and we would not have the war in Israel. And she took no responsibility for that weakness, nor did she have a word to say about the over $100 billion that she and Joe Biden have flowed to Iran. All of her records she ran away from, and I got to say, the ABC moderators were complicit in her running a completely fact-free debate performance.
I think that's well said, Senator. I mean, and there's so much that we don't understand. Defund, dismantle, reimagine, ICE, the police, the mini-app. They wanted to talk about January 6th. There was 600 riots in the summer of 2020. She tweets out the Minnesota bail fund 4 days after the police precinct is burned. And, you know, they won't stop. They shouldn't stop. We're not going to stop. All things that she said. 18 to 24-year-olds are stupid. Abolish the filibuster to pass the Green New Deal. Inflation is transitory. The border's secure. We're proud of Bidenomics. The country needs to be woke. We'll never deport illegals. And now we're going to give free sex change operations to convicted felons and illegal immigrants. How's that going to go over in your state of Texas? I would imagine not so well.
Look, it goes over terribly. But what you just did, what I just did, is what the Trump campaign needs to do between now and Election Day, which is lay out the actual facts of her record, because she won't confront them. So for example, on abortion, she said, no, I'm not for late-term abortions, 8 and 9 month abortions. Well, she has voted for legislation that would legalize abortion up until the moment of birth. When she says, I don't know what you're talking about, abortion after birth. Well, Kamala Harris voted against the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, which says that if in the course of an abortion a baby is alive, is breathing, is outside the womb, you can't just kill the baby. She voted no. And so her actual record needs to be systematically laid out when it comes to crime. This is someone who has supported defund the police. This is someone who has supported defund ICE. This is someone, Kamala Harris, who compared ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency, to the KKK. But we need to make sure those facts get before the American people, because ABC is not going to do it. The corporate media is not going to do it. And listen, her radical record is radical the same way my opponent, Colin Allred, who's running against me, both of them vote repeatedly in favor of open borders. Both of them vote for trillions of dollars of spending we don't have. Both of them vote for the war against oil and gas and American energy. Both of them vote in favor of defunding the police. That's their record. But I got to tell you, the left right now, they are flooding money to Kamala Harris. They're flooding money to my opponent because they want to deceive the American people. Both Kamala Harris and my opponent are running ads with Donald Trump's border wall in it, even though both of them have opposed it their entire careers. The hypocrisy is enormous, which is why we need to bring the facts back up and prosecute this case on the merits.
Trump should have went in there. I wish Trump would have called out the moderators once this was really going on and you saw 45 minutes in that it was so unfair. I wish he would have called them out. I wish he would have attacked her record a lot more. The people still don't know Kamala Harris. The average person of the American population is not into politics the way I'm into politics, the way most of my viewers are into politics and social culture and all the culture war stuff. They're really not. And I wish those moderators would have been better, because when Trump said, would you be for abortion at 7 months, 8 months, 9 months? And she said, oh, come on. They should have asked her. Ask her that question. We still don't know what her economic plan is. She said, I have an opportunity plan. What is that? What does that mean? Lay that out. Asked about it. She just told the story about how she was born in the middle class. Who cares? Her whole debate, her whole campaign is Trump bad. She didn't answer any questions. She just said Trump bad. I still think his closing statement was strong. I really think he was distracted. Maybe he was baited into some of these questions. Maybe he was frustrated by the way the moderators were treating him. But I think he took the bait in a lot of them. I don't think it was a great debate for him. I don't think it was his best showing. Because when she went after him about the crowd sizes, he bit on that, and I think he shouldn't. When they mentioned January 6th, he should have mentioned all the BLM riots, how she was for that. There's so much to attack her on her record. So much. I just wish that he would have done more of it. But this is just how I am. I'm pessimistic about all this stuff as soon as it happens. I'm always the same way. This might be a way better debate for him than I'm thinking right now, but I'm just fresh off of watching it, and it seemed to me not as great as what everybody on social media is saying. Now let's get to the next clip. Now, the more I think about this and listening to Senator Ted Cruz here, the media tonight were beyond horrible. I knew it was going to be biased, but this was beyond horrible. The more I think about it, this makes it look like Jake Tapper in the CNN debate really did somewhat of a baseline credible job. I remember at the time of watching it, I thought, that was really biased. After watching this, I think, good Lord, David Muir became an active participant in the debate. Lindsey Davis became an active participant in the debate. And they never once fact-checked Kamala. I still can't believe it. She lied over and over again. I even fact-checked her myself on X. I was Googling some things thinking, am I wrong about this? why are they not fact-checking her? And sure enough, even the thing about the pets, they fact-checked Trump about the pets, saying that the Ethiopians... Now there's police reports out there of this happening. And then the Project 2025 stuff, that he was a backer of Project 2025. Another lie. And when she said that Trump said that there were very fine people on both sides of the Charlottesville riots, including the neo-Nazis, another lie. This has been debunked repeatedly. And they didn't say that it was a lie. But it was a full-scale lie. No fact checks at all for Kamala Harris from those two moderators. But at the same time, I could look at this and say he didn't perform as good as I was hoping he would perform tonight. Obviously, the media there was against him. But if this hits social media and if the independents, the average member of society, sees it that way, that could really help him out. The media want Kamala Harris to be elected, and they're doing their best to make sure she gets elected. Tomorrow, what I hope happens is that Trump goes on the offensive and his team sits him down and goes, look, listen, man, we got to go to the attack here. This whole Kamala Harris, the party of vibe, she's the party of joy, but he has no policy. She's literally going to try after this to get right to the election without ever speaking to another reporter, journalist, news outlet, pick something. She's not going to answer another question. I don't think they do another debate. All the mainstream media is going to declare that she won, and they're gonna say how bad Trump did. So I think that's going to be the last presidential debate of this election. Let's get to JD.
Joining us now is 2024 Republican Vice Presidential nominee, Senator J.D. Vance. Senator, great to see you. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Getting ready for your debate?
Yeah. Got a lot of pointers this evening.
Okay. All right. Let's get your overall take. I think the thing that's frustrating to me and a lot of people, well, number one, I think 3-on-1 was a little frustrating.
Yeah.
Number two, the topics that are so relevant, the radical positions that she's taken.
Sure.
When I first interviewed you, the first interview you did,
yep,
when you were vice president, when you announced to be the candidate, I asked you every hard question, and you answered every one of them, and I kept you longer. Because it was supposed to be 10 minutes, I kept you 30. I was being very nice. And so all these radical positions she's taken, still no answers. We have not moved the ball an inch. It is frustrating.
It is frustrating, and the moderators, I think, did a terrible job of following up on that. But look, I think President Trump did a good job at reminding the American people that this is a person who wanted to ban fracking. Here we are in Pennsylvania. She supported banning fracking. She supported defunding the police. She supported opening the border. And I think that though the moderators didn't do their job, I think President Trump did do his job in reminding the American people that she has taken a number of radical positions that, as he joked, she's run away from. Now she's acting like Donald Trump. She's about to put on a MAGA hat because she realizes,
by the way,
radical...
That was a pretty good line.
It was my favorite moment of the debate. But she is a radical who is trying to run towards Donald Trump's positions because she knows that's what's popular, but it's not what she actually believes. And I think that if you go to her performance, Sean, the most striking part of it is if you actually listen to what she said, it was platitude after slogan. There was no substance. How is she going to lower grocery prices for American citizens?
Rehearse, cliched, use everything that you want to say. And the bottom line is fundamental. I hate Trump.
That's exactly right. And also, look, both of them have records. That's what's different about this election, almost any other election in my lifetime. You have two people with a record. Donald Trump is proud of his record. Kamala Harris is running away from her record because her record is higher grocery prices, homes that are unaffordable, a wide open southern border, rising fentanyl deaths. This is happening because of her failed leadership. And all we need to remind the American people of, and I think Donald Trump did a great job of this tonight, is the reason why these problems happen is because Kamala Harris failed to do her job.
You know, the thing is, she's 50 days, and prior to tonight, she does one interview, no press conferences. You're out there every day.
Yep.
Between you and President Trump, you're nearing, 50 combined?
Sure.
And it's still a mystery. It's like the candidate protection program, and the media keeps her in there. You know, I have all of these files, the Kamala files, the Walls files, them in their own words. This was all available to ABC tonight. You said this about fracking. You said this about drilling. You said this about sex change operations that taxpayers pay for criminals and for illegal immigrants, free housing, health care, education for illegal immigrants, the elimination of private health care. Yep. All of these positions that she's taken, you know, and it's amazing that we're this far, that we're this close to an election, we don't have these answers.
That's exactly right. Well, she's running a campaign based on vibes, and she's running
vibes. What the hell is a vibe? Are we in the 60s?
It feels like it sometimes. I feel like watching Kamala Harris like I've taken some psychedelics, but look, she is a total disaster, Sean, and she runs away from her record. This is the most striking thing is, if you're the vice president, you've been in power for 3.5 years, is she running by saying, look what we did to lower your grocery prices, look what we did to make the world more secure?
She can't.
She can't because her record is one of failure. And we just have to remind the American people of this, Sean. I mean, look, I think if you watch the debate, you're sitting at home, you're an undecided voter, what you saw is a person who repeats slogans instead of respecting you enough to treat you like an adult. You know, Donald Trump, and he gets criticized by the left for this, by the way, Donald Trump actually answers the questions because he respects the American people enough to treat them like citizens. That's why he does everyday debate. That's why he goes out there and talks to people, because he thinks that you ought to try to win the people's vote, not just have it given to you.
She also told a lot of lies about Project 2025. Yep. Project 2025 is her radical agenda for her. A national abortion ban. That wasn't true. She lied about her saying in 2000, no, I didn't say I'm for fracking. Mandatory gun buyback, she said at the end of the debate. Oh, no, I never said that.
Yeah.
I'm a gun owner. I'm like, that is exactly what you said. Yes, you did. It's on tape. We have it. We played it.
That's right. Well, that's the entire trick here, right? Is the media is helping Kamala Harris run away from a record, but we have her on tape saying all these things, Sean. And by the way, when she said that she supported a ban on fracking, then she changed her view in 2020, that's another complete fabrication. She has never once changed her view that she wanted to ban fracking. And you're an American sitting at home.
She became the presumptive nominee.
Well, that's right. She changed her mind in 2024, but not in 2020, so another complete fabrication. But think about this. If you're a Pennsylvania energy worker, or you're an American suffering from high utility and energy bills, Kamala Harris is telling you she wants to make you pay more and she wants to put these energy workers out of a job. It's a disgrace, but it's what she said in her own words, and we've got a record of success to run on. We just have to keep on doing it.
Let me ask you this, because I think this is very important. So with 56 days, but we have early voting. We're 1 week away where early voting starts here in Pennsylvania. You're spending a lot of time in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania.
Sure.
And one has to wonder, to what extent has her past statements and radical positions penetrated the consciousness of the American people?
Look, I think they've penetrated a little bit, and it's our job over the remaining 56 days of the campaign. You're right, early voting starts in just a couple of weeks. It's our job to make it penetrate. Sean, we have to do this every single day. We have to remind the American people of what she said. Look, this is not complicated. We just have to tell the truth. Kamala Harris wanted to ban fracking. She wanted to defund the police. She said it all on video. We just have to remind people of what she said. And by the way, Sean, it's not just reminding people what she said. It's reminding what Donald Trump did and has plans to do again. We had prosperity, we had peace, we had the American dream that started to feel alive again thanks to Donald Trump's leadership. Sean, I believe this. I think we've got the best workers, the best history and cultural traditions in the world. We've got the best natural resources in the most beautiful country. We have got failed leadership that is ruining our great inheritance as a country. We just need better leadership. It's that simple. Good to see you, man.
Senator, good to see you.
Yeah, it was clear that Kamala most likely had the questions ahead of time, in my opinion. It seems like she was up there just saying the script that she knew. And when she said that race shouldn't divide us, we shouldn't let race divide us, it's like you're sitting there thinking, what? That's how you became vice president of the United States. What? They asked her about Afghanistan. They said, do you have any regrets of how you pulled out of Afghanistan, the whole Afghanistan debacle? And she said, no, I was just hoping that Trump would say, you don't have any regrets of the 13 dead American soldiers whose family you ignored while you were in your mansion a few minutes away from the funeral ceremonies, and Joe Biden was on the beach while Trump went there. But he looked distracted, in my opinion. So I guess what I was hoping would be Trump crushing her. I wasn't expecting it to be this biased, to be 100% honest with you guys. I was expecting some biases, but not to this extent. It is still a very close race, and I don't think it's going to become a tight race because of this particular debate, which means that tomorrow Donald Trump hopefully gets up and decides to go full speed ahead the rest of the campaign and do what he didn't do tonight, right? Define her positions, something that I think J.D. Vance, while he's on the road, has been doing an excellent job of pointing out her record. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys thought of the debate. If you watched it, subscribe, hit the thumbs up. Catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.